I'm Kate Libby, the Director of Education and the Associate Curator here at the Chesapeake Bay Maritime Museum. Thanks for joining us again for another installment of Chesapeake Treasure, a feature here on Facebook where we explore one of the fabulous objects in our collection that a lot of visitors don't get the opportunity to see. Today we're going to be looking at, I always say they're my favorite, but one of my favorite pieces from the collection, a poster from Tolchester Beach. A little backstory, when we think about the summertime and now that we're nearing Labor Day, think about how you might spend your Labor Day weekend. It is probably going to involve some sort of swimsuit and swimming in, whether it's at Ocean City or it's locally or it's in a pool. 100 years ago, people felt the same. When it was a hot summer day, they wanted to get out of the city, they wanted to get into that cool bay breeze, and they wanted an opportunity to have fun with their families and maybe get in the water. So the object that we're talking about today, this poster, reflects a time period in Chesapeake history where it was before cars and the nearest beach was not Ocean City, it was bay beaches. So it's in this 19th century time period, the late 19th century, that people start to get outside a lot more. They're looking for recreational opportunities. The middle class is growing, and that middle class has now regulated weekends. So there are people with more money and more time to spend having fun than ever before. And so in response, people start to create these new destinations, these resort towns. Think of Coney Island or Atlantic City. And the Chesapeake Bay had its own version of Coney Island or Atlantic City. And one of those beaches is represented here on this poster today. We're looking at a poster from Tolchester Beach in Maryland in 1890, although Tolchester was actually opened in 1878. It was a partnership between two steamboat line owners, John Armbruster and E.B. Taggart, along with Taggart's employee, William Eliason. Originally, they had bought the land because they thought they were going to connect a steamboat line to a rail line. The rail line never actually got that far, so now they had a beautiful piece of waterfront property in Kent County, Maryland. What were they going to do with it? Well, you had all these resort communities opening up around the United States, and they decided they were going to make one of the very first resort destination beaches in the Chesapeake here at Tolchester. So you can see a little over 10 years after it's opened, there's a lot of entertainment here at Tolchester. So to the left-hand corner, we can see this is really the Steamboat Wharf. This is where steamboats like the Emma Giles, the Nellie White, the Louise would arrive carrying passengers from Baltimore, and they would disembark and head in towards a day of entertainment. Swimming was a very new activity, and we can see here in the lower corner, we can see details of people swimming in very long and heavy woolen swimsuits that they could rent for the day at Tolchester Beach. Now, Tolchester was a family-friendly park. It was a dry park. William Eliason was notably someone who believed in temperance. So this was a place where all your amusements were going to be, very family friendly. And so the image, of course, has a lot of families and children in it. You can see that you've got a lot of really early ideas of recreation that we still might see today if we go to an amusement park. So you've got your roller coaster here. You've got another one, a long inclined one here. You've got a racetrack. You've got a ball field. And then, of course, you've got the bandstand here in the center. Now, this is an important piece for us because it connects to an actual building that we have here at the Chesapeake Bay Maritime Museum. So the bandstand that you see in this image is the same one that we have here at the museum, and it's really one of the last objects from Tolchester that exists. If you go out to this exact location today, all of this is gone. That's because as the automobile became more popular, steamboats stopped being the way that people got to resort beaches around the bay. And in fact, the death knell was really the Chesapeake Bay Bridge opening in 1952, which allowed people to just jet right past all these destination beaches in the Chesapeake and head right on over to the ocean, whether it was Ocean City, Wildwood, or other beaches along the Atlantic coast. So by 1962, Tolchester was very run down, very ramshackle, and their attendance was very sluggish, so they closed the beach. It was bought by a developer who tore down the buildings and razed and burned what was left, but not before a local landowner, Walter B. Harris, was able to rescue some of the buildings, which he took to his property and restored piece by piece lovingly. And in 1984, he donated one of the few buildings remaining, this bandstand here in the center, to the Chesapeake Bay Maritime Museum. If you visit the museum today on Big Band Night, you're going to enjoy music and dancing all around the bandstand, just like people would have 100 years ago. So it's a tradition that we continue here at the Maritime Museum through the Tolchester Beach Bandstand. It was a generous donation and one that really reflects a part of our history that, again, it's gone but not forgotten. Thanks so much for joining us again for another issue of Chesapeake Treasure, and we'll see you next week.